Hi, I am Nidhi, and today we will be studying about cells, the basic units of life. We will basically discuss that why they are known as functional unit of life and how they actually function. So before beginning, let's discuss a short story that will tell you that how a cell was discovered. Once upon a time, there was an English scientist, Robert Hooke. He observed a piece of cork. Cork is basically a dead bark of oak tree. He was very keen of observing things. He had a compound microscope. So under the microscope, he observed small room-like structures, small chambers that resemble the hexagonal shaped chambers of a honeycomb. He didn't observe a living cell, but what he observed was strong ridges of the cell and termed it as small rooms, or a term was given that was known as cellula. Much later, with more developments, there was a scientist known as Anton von Leeuwenhoek. Through his compound microscope, he actually observed a living cell, and after that, the term cells came into play. Then, many scientists did their discoveries, they did their experiments, and led to the formation of the cell theory. Cell theory हमें basically दो scientists ने दी थी who were known as Schleiden and Schwann. Let's see what cell theory states. It says that all the organisms are made of cells. The cell is the basic unit of life in all the living things, and all the cells come from pre-existing cells. This is very important to know because it states that a single cell leads to the formation of more functional cells. This is very important to know because this only shows that all living things share a similar structure. May it be the microorganisms, the bacteria, the plants, the human bodies, हम सब एक basic structure से बने हैं, that is known as cell. Further, let's discuss about types of cells. There are two types of cells. The first is prokaryotic cells. So, pro word means before, and karyotic is the term used for nucleus. So, prokaryotic cell is basically the cell which was discovered or present before nucleus was discovered. It basically means that in prokaryotic cells, true nucleus is not present. Let me tell you why. Nucleus contains DNA material. In prokaryotic cells, the DNA material was floating in the liquid present in the cell. On the other hand, eukaryotic cells, U means after and karyotic means nucleus. So, eukaryotic cells are the cells which were discovered after the discovery of nucleus. We say that true nucleus is present in eukaryotic cells. If you see in the images, आपको clearly दिखेगा कि जो DNA है, it is slightly scattered in the cell. On the other hand, in eukaryotic cell, the nucleus, or I can say the DNA material, is content is present at a single place. The other difference of the cells in prokaryotic cell and eukaryotic cell is the presence of cell organelles. जैसे हमारी ह्यूमन बॉडी में अलग अलग ऑर्गन्स प्रेजेंट होते हैं विच फंक्शन साइमल्टेनियसली टू मेक इट अ फंक्शनल बॉडी, वैसे ही सेल्स में सेल ऑर्गेनेलीज प्रेजेंट होते हैं which helps in the proper functioning of cells. So in prokaryotic cells, proper membrane bound all the cell organelles were not present. On the other hand, in eukaryotic cell, all the cell organelles, the membrane bound cell organelles with proper different specific functions were present. Okay, and the third difference is that prokaryotic cells were very small in structure, whereas eukaryotic cells were comparatively bigger. But the main point is that all the cells, whether they are prokaryotic or eukaryotic, they share same common features. Let's discuss further. So these are the organelles. Organelles are structures that enable the cell to live, grow, and reproduce, doing their specific functions, performing their specific functions. Now, if a in जैसे हमारी ह्यूमन बॉडी है, इफ आवर स्टमक इज नॉट प्लेइंग इट्स रोल परफेक्टली, हमारा लिवर अफेक्ट हो जाता है. ठीक है, हमारा लिवर अफेक्ट होगा तो हमारी और भी बॉडी फंक्शनिंग अफेक्ट होगी. वैसे ही फॉर अ सेल टू बी प्रॉपरली फंक्शनिंग, अगर सारी सेल ऑर्गेनेलीज अच्छे से प्रॉपर स्पेसिफिक फंक्शंस परफॉर्म करेंगी, देन ओनली द सेल विल बी फंक्शनल. Let's discuss further. Okay, the prokaryotic cell. It does not have membrane covered nucleus. Nucleus is just scattered in the cytoplasm. The other point, it has no membrane covered organelles. Third, it has a circular DNA and they are basically present in bacteria. देखिए, in this structure आपको एक structure दिखाई दे रहा होगा pili. Pili are basically present for the movement of cells. Other than that, if you see जो हमारा nucleus है, now in prokaryotic cells the DNA material is known as nucleoid. Why? Because it's present freely in the cell. Other than that, the outer covering of the prokaryotic cell is known as capsule, that basically safeguards the cell from harsh environment. Below that capsule, cell wall is present, and below the cell wall is plasma membrane. Now, only one organelle that is present in cell is ribosomes. The other kind of cell, eukaryotic cell. Eukaryotic cell has a nucleus. It has a membrane covered organelles. It has linear DNA, and eukaryotic cells are present in all types of organisms, the plants, the humans, basically the evolved organisms. Now let's talk about the organelles individually. The most important organelle present in a cell is cell membrane. देखिए, just like in our body, हमारी जो skin होती है, it safeguards us from harsh environment, from microorganisms. Just like that, the cell has an outer covering that is known as cell membrane. It is the outer layer of cell. And the most important point, that it is semi-permeable in nature. Let me tell you what is semi-permeable in nature. It only allows specific material to enter into the cell and rejects all other unnecessary elements. It allows nutrients into the cell and waste outside of the cell. Now, why it is semi-permeable? अगर हमारे सेल में सब कुछ एंटर कर सकता है, सब कुछ एंटर कर गया, then that can be fatal for our cell. Suppose our body is infected by a virus, and if the virus is able to easily thrive in that in a cell, then the cell may die. That's why the cell membrane is necessary to be selectively permeable in nature. Okay, other cell organelle is cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is basically the jelly-like fluid present in the cells that holds the organelles. It basically वो एक platform provide करता है जहाँ पे the cell organelles can function properly. The other main cell organelle of cell is the nucleus. It is the control center of the cell, just like a brain. Now, सेल ऑर्गेनली न्यूक्लियस में 4 कंपोनेंट्स होते हैं. यहाँ पे 3 दिखा रखे हैं, but I'll tell you how. Okay, the first one is nucleolus. Nucleolus is basically the scrambled DNA material present in the nucleus. Then there is a nuclear membrane, a membrane that bounds the nucleus, that does not allow all the material to enter into the cell and allows selective material to exit from the nucleus outside in the cell, like outside from the nuclear membrane. अब न्यूक्लियर मेम्ब्रेन में अगर आप नोटिस करें, यहाँ पे छोटे छोटे से पोर्स बने हुए हैं. द पोर्स आर द पैसेज फ्रॉम विच जो न्यूक्लियस में प्रोसेस मटेरियल होता है दैट पासेस आउटसाइड. नाउ अ मेजर part of the nucleus contains nucleoplasm. Nucleoplasm is basically the jelly fluid-like structure present in the nucleus. The nucleus contains the cell's DNA. And one more thing, that it was discovered by Mayer. Okay, now let's come to mitochondria. Mitochondria is known as the power center of cells. It generates energy ताकि हमारा cell proper functioning कर पाए. It is membrane bound. It has an outer membrane and an inner membrane as well. It provides the energy the cell needs to move and divide. Okay, so it is basically known as the powerhouse of the cell. It generates energy in the form of ATPs only. Just like हमारी body energy generate करती है खाना खा के, वैसे ही in cells the energy is generated by mitochondria, ताकि बाकी के जो cell organelles हैं that can function properly. Now the other cell organelles, ribosomes. Ribosomes वो sites होते हैं जहाँ proteins बनते हैं. This is the only cell organelle that is also present in prokaryotic cells. Okay, so ribosomes perform a major function because most of the parts of the cell are made up of proteins only. Then the other cell organelle is endoplasmic reticulum. अगर आपने पुराना डायग्राम बहुत अच्छे से नोटिस करा होगा, then you must have observed that endoplasmic reticulum is present very close to the nucleus. It basically functions as a transportation system of the cell. Everything that is processed in the nucleus is transferred in the cell through endoplasmic reticulum only. Now, endoplasmic reticulum are of two types, RER and SER. RER stands for rough endoplasmic reticulum. It is present at the outer surface of the endoplasmic reticulum. The other one is SER, smooth endoplasmic reticulum. They are basically present on the inner sides of the endoplasmic reticulum, very close to the nucleus. Okay, the major difference between smooth endoplasmic reticulum and rough endoplasmic reticulum is that smooth endoplasmic reticulum are help in the synthesis of lipids. They make synthesize lipids. On the other hand, rough endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, so rough endoplasmic reticulum को rough endoplasmic reticulum क्यों बोला जाता है? Because on that side of endoplasmic reticulum, ribosomes are attached to endoplasmic reticulum. That is why they are known as rough endoplasmic reticulum. वो एक बहुत rough structure वहाँ पे बना लेते हैं, and what they basically do, they help in the synthesis of protein. The major thing that RER, ribosomes are attached, smooth endoplasmic reticulum, no ribosomes are attached. So they are basically the roadways of the cell. Anything that is processed in the nucleus, I am repeating, anything that is processed in the nucleus is transported into the cell through endoplasmic reticulum. Then comes the Golgi complex. Golgi complex is basically the packaging house of the cell. Anything that is processed in the nucleus is transported from the endoplasmic reticulum to where? The Golgi complex. It packages, processes, and ships out the stuff the cell makes outside the body. So this is how a cell function. हमारी बॉडी के अलग अलग ऑर्गन्स अलग अलग चीजें अलग अलग काम करते हैं to make it properly functioning. Just like that, in a cell, in a small cell, see how like efficient it is. कि न्यूक्लियस में जो भी चीजें बनती हैं, न्यूक्लियस में anything that is processed, it has a proper transportation system, that is endoplasmic reticulum, okay, which transports that material to another organelle, that is the Golgi complex. Golgi complex क्या करता है? It makes small packages, processes it, and it transports it or transfers it to the other part of the cell or out of the cell wherever it is needed. The next one is lysosomes. Lysosomes are also known as suicidal bags. Let me tell you why. It digests the food particles and cell parts. It protects the cell by digesting foreign invaders. Just like if anything unnecessary by mistake enters into the cell membrane, then they are digested by the lysosomes so that it cannot harm the cell. But on the other hand, if the lysosome अगर उन्हें थोड़ा सा भी ऐसा feel हो that something the cell is not properly functioning, then they can act as suicide bombs and they can just destroy the cell. Then comes the vacuole. Vacuole stores water, food, and waste. They are they can be present as a single quantity or in multiple quantities in a cell. I will further explain you what is the major role of vacuole and in which kind of cells they are present. And see, there is an important point that vacuole is largest organelle present in a plant cell. Okay, now the cell wall. So, on the basis of presence of cell organelles, the cells are basically further distinguished or differentiated in two types: plant cell and animal cell. The major differences between both is the presence of cell wall. In plant cells, outside the cell membrane एक और thickening present होती है, that is known as cell wall, which is absent in the animal cells. See, cell wall is found in only plant cells and it protects and supports the cells. It provides a rigidity to the cell. Another cell organelle that is only present in plant cells are chloroplasts. Chloroplasts are found only in plant cells. They contain chlorophyll, the green pigment, the green thing that allows, that absorb the sunlight that is necessary for which function? Photosynthesis. Okay. Oh, right. So the major difference between a plant cell and animal cell is the presence of all organelles. On the left side, there are the various organelles that are present in both plant and animal cells. On the other side, the organelles that are present in plant cells only are chloroplast and cell wall. Now let me tell you that vacuoles. Vacuoles are present, are very small in shape in animal cell, but in plant cell, a major part of the plant cell is occupied by a vacuole. Plants may vacuole act in many different ways. They are known as food vacuole, water vacuole, or other kinds of vacuoles are there. In animal cell, there is no major function of vacuole. They are very small in structure and they do not perform a very significant function. So that is, they are not necessary in animal cell, but they are present. In plant cell, they perform a very crucial functions. So let us sum up. We had a discussion about the discovery of cells, which led to the proposition of cell theory. Cell was discovered by Robert Hooke, and later a cell theory was proposed by Schleiden and Schwann. Then the cell were differentiated into two types: prokaryotic, the primitive one, and the eukaryotic, the evolved one. In prokaryotic, true nucleus was not present, whereas in eukaryotic, true nucleus was present. Okay, then we discussed about various cell organelles. Cell organelles are basic organs that are present in cells that helps in proper functioning of cells. Some major cell organelles are cell membrane, Golgi complex, nucleus, mitochondrion, lysosomes, endoplasmic reticulum, ribosomes, and vacuoles. In plant cells, the major cell organelles present are chloroplast and cell wall. I hope you have a better understanding of this and we will come up with more interesting stuff. Thank you.